CQ, 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 and welcome back to the 599 Signal Report. I am your host, Ron W2ELS. In the shack with me today, I have Bryan W1WC. Bryan, you're 599 coming out of November Yankee. How am I sounding?
All Ron, you're 599 in Alpha Lima. Thank you so much for having me today.
Copy Alpha Lima, and thank you so much for joining me in the shack today. I am looking forward to the conversation and definitely learning more about you, Bryan. So, just to get us started, tell us more about your ham radio as well as your CW journey. How'd you get started?
Yeah, so if people don't know, I'm originally from Michigan, and in middle school, I met my best friend Ken. We ended up volunteering a lot. We volunteered aboard the Coast Guard cutter Bramble. It was a museum ship at the time, so we volunteered as museum guides and cleanup crew. And we met a good friend of ours now, Andrew. He's KC8 SPD, and he did a lot of volunteer work with a lot of groups in the county. I started volunteering a lot with him. We were aboard the sheriff dive team, and I was a dive tender and rescue swimmer. I was on the county hazmat team, and I volunteered for the American Red Cross. And we got into talking about local events that were upcoming that they needed volunteers for, bike races, local boating events. And those events all used ham radio to communicate between members that were helping out
Great.
the crew. So he encouraged me to get my ham radio license at the time. Ken as well. We volunteered together with the Red Cross. And Ken's brother was also a ham, and he said, "Hey, if you get your license, I'll buy you a handheld." So we both got our licenses together in early 2011, I think it was. And at the time, I was KD8PZT, and Ken still is KD8PZU. So we got sequential calls. So with the American Red Cross, we did a lot of events. They had a amateur radio group called the American Red Cross Amateur Radio Group, and they were K8ARC. And they did a lot of field day events, a lot of meetings, a lot of local repeater work, not very much HF other than field day, and no real interaction with CW at all. No one from the club did CW. The older members who learned it to pass their exams never spoke about it or exposed any of the newer members of the club to it. No code text came about in, I think it was 2007, so
Mhm.
there was still a lot of animosity there among the old crew.
I can
Um,
imagine.
so it was right after that when we got ours, so we weren't required to learn Morse code, and I think that sparked a lot of drama with a lot of people in the club. But we worked with them for quite a long time. Andrew at the time was the president of that club, and I eventually became the vice president, and then eventually the president when Andrew moved on, and I earned my general during that time as well. After that, I met my wife Anna in an online gaming community. We became really close friends, and during that time, I had the opportunity to pursue a technical career path, and I ended up moving away from my hometown to Lansing. After leaving my hometown, I kind of fell out of the hobby. I ended up moving to Austin and San Antonio. I didn't know anyone there other than Ken, who actually moved with me to Texas.
Hmm.
So I never really got on any repeaters and never had much interaction with HF or CW at all. Still up to that time, I still hadn't really any exposure to CW at all. And around that time, Anna and I started talking about our future and the different goals that we had. And I had mentioned that it would be cool if we both got motorcycles with in-helmet communication and use VHF to communicate to each other.
Mhm.
And she mentioned that to her dad, and that she thought that would be cool. So that sparked their interest to get licensed. So she actually got licensed together with her dad, and she's KM4QNA, and her dad is KM4QMZ. So they're also sequential. They got their tech, general, and extra, and then became VEs all around the same time as well, very quickly.
Very cool.
Um, so we became closer. I moved from Texas to Alabama. And we got married, and during that time, I started to explore more in HF. Now that I had someone else to enjoy the hobby with, more
Right.
closely, and I joined the local club that Anna and her dad had been a part of since getting their licenses, and that club had some members that were interested in CW, but it was still primarily sideband and digital voice. There was a lot of people that were interested in digital voice,
Mhm.
but that's kind of where I first became exposed to CW and kind of started my CW journey. And of course, I can't mention CW without crediting Field Day and Parks on the Air.
Field.
Yes, my absolute favorite thing about amateur radio is Field Day. I look forward to it every year in Michigan. They had a tower with a truck and lots of radios, and it was great in Michigan. And same thing here. They have a lot of radios and a lot of equipment, and I really really enjoy Field Day every year. I really look forward to portable operations and looked forward to getting back into it with our local club here. But shortly before Field Day, I had already had we bought an HF radio. We had started checking into the Ole Miss Nets and 3905 Century Club,
Right.
but we started hearing rumblings of Parks on the Air. And with that bug, it kind of piqued my interest. I didn't know anything about it. No one in our club had talked about it. It was still very new to me. This is in early 2024,
Okay.
and my favorite part of the hobby was field day, and POTA is just field day every day.
Every
So
day.
I was a kid in a candy store. I started hunting a ton of POTA stations from home, and I started activating in May of 2024.
Okay. Okay.
And I was all in. I was watching YouTubers do activations. Michael KB9VBR and
Absolutely.
Thomas K4SWL,
Absolutely.
and started reading every blog I could find, seeing what people were using for equipment. I couldn't get enough. I loved it. Started making my own antennas and trying different modes. And I was getting more and more exposed to CW, and
Mhm.
it kept being there in the back of my head, like, hey, I want to try this. I started to see how much joy and passion people had for it in those YouTube videos, and it really intrigued me to start to learn it. And I had seen Thomas with his KX2 and KX3 for in so many videos, and I really, really wanted one. And it was an expensive radio,
Oh
so
yeah.
I set an insurmountable goal of making 100 CW contacts at a park. And if I could do that, I would buy one for myself. And at the time, when you're just starting out, 100 contacts at a park seems like impossible.
Insurmountable.
So I was highly motivated to learn.
Absolutely.
Anna had started. Anna started learning CW with her dad early on. She started and kind of fell out of practice of it. So she had a little bit of experience with it, and then she started kind of around the same time that I did, maybe a little bit, a couple weeks before, and we started sharing the different apps that we were using. So we were using Morse Mania and Morse Code Ninja, and
Oh yeah.
just trying to learn as much as possible. And in June, but right before field day, I was getting all ready to set up and decided that I was going to try to do CW for field day. This was only 2 weeks in,
Right. Oh my.
and I rationalized to myself, we weren't doing it at a Parks on the Air park, but we were still outdoors at a park. So that became
Mhm.
my ultimate goal, was to make 100 contacts then, only 2 weeks in. And I set up my memory keyer, and it took me, 10, 15 times of a station call in CQ, but I got the station's call, and I made my 100 contacts, and I just went all in from there. And
Wow.
I yeah, I promised myself a Bengali Traveler when I did my first CW solo activation. So there's a lot of making goals and trying to attain those, and making kind of rewards for yourself. As far as
Absolutely.
my CW journey has gone, it's been a lot of fun to make those goals and then try to meet them and then proceed from there.
So from what it sounds like, you had a goal, you worked towards that goal, you achieved the goal, then you made yourself another goal. Very
Yep.
cool. You talked about Morse Mania, you talked about Morse Ninja. So are you completely self-taught? Or both of you completely self-taught? Or did you go through any classes?
We still have not gone through any classes. I
Wow.
work a I work a ton, a lot of weird hours. I work from home, but I unfortunately have a lot of hours at work, and it seems like none of the classes line up with my schedule. And being being so hyper focused on parks on the air, I think if I'm not if I'm not at work, I want to be at a park. I want to be on the air activating. So it's hard to it's hard to find time to do a formal education in it, but I think it's incredibly important for a lot of people that those classes are available and they have that format to bring it in. I think I would have learned faster if I'd have gone through a formal training or classes like LSCW or
Mhm.
um, CW Ops or anything like that, CW Academy. But yeah, we're both self-taught, just learning the apps and Morse Mania, Morse Code Ninja. There's so many now. It's just
Right.
there's so there's such a wide range of resources out there that it can be kind of deer in the headlights trying to pick one. But yeah, we started out all self-taught and just got on the air as soon as I could to try to push myself to not 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 be embarrassed making contacts, I guess, and, it's worked out for me, I guess, so far.
Absolutely. And definitely some of the advice we've always given on the podcast is get on the air even before you feel comfortable. So get on the air and sounds like making a goal of getting yourself an Elecraft is also a good motivation for making those contacts as well.
Yeah, there's some great motivation behind those things, like, if you see a key that you want and, if you think that that will help you, focus on your training and practice, and you can have a goal where you can actually measure and set and say, "Hey, I if I make X many contacts or get to such words per minute, then that's going to be my goal for myself, and you can save up towards it and treat yourself. I think that's a huge motivator for sure.
Very cool indeed. So let's go back to Parks on the Air, POTA. Let's talk about what's your typical setup, and then also how do you handle your pileups? Because I know the pileups come pretty intense for you. So talk about your typical POTA setup from beginning to end, and then handling pileups.
Oh man, so parks on the air, it's all different for me. So I've done so many parks now that doing the same radio, the same antenna, the same setup every time, it gets kind of boring. I've activated all of 2025, I activated every single day. I've actually
Wow,
only missed. I unfortunately have gotten really busy this year, and I've missed 5 days this year, so I'm not on
that's,
track still. But
that's commendable. Wow, that's a lot of days.
with that, I love to try out new radios. I love building and trying out new antennas where I can set them up separately at a park. I think I've activated like Montesano 75 times or so, something like
Nice,
that. And there's everywhere there where you can go and activate. And just changing up from hiking in and using like an Elecraft KX2 and a wire antenna, or operating from the truck with the 891 and a screwdriver. I definitely have favorites. My favorites is definitely still the FT-710. I think it's an awesome radio. And for antennas, probably the Cheliance MC750 is a great
nice,
option. And I also built my own version of an Eagle One, and that's probably my best 40-meter antenna. So like if I'm going to a park kind of early afternoon and I want to stay until after UTC, I'll put that out, and that does great on the 40-meter.
nice, very
But
nice.
yeah, so I change it up all the time. I love to try new antennas and learn what works for my setup. I think if I ever stick to one antenna all the time, it would just be, yeah, it would be boring for sure.
And
And
that's the
not
fun
all
part,
Yeah, and not all antennas work for all situations. I've been to parks
right?
where you only have 10 square feet to set up and you have to use a vertical or a pedestrian mobile. And other parks, I have set up 400-foot long dipoles at a park local to me. It just because you have all that room to stretch out, and it's fun to just try different ones for sure.
Very cool. Excellent and very cool. So let's talk about those pileups. How are you making your way through them?
Man, I think there are some amazing operators out there that handle pileups much better than I do. But for me, these are definitely what I would recommend. There are two separate groups of people that I would make recommendations to: new people and experienced
Hmm.
people. For new people, the number one thing, don't get frustrated.
Right.
If you have a big pile up, go slow, let things slide. Some hunters will get pushy, try not to let them. If you call for a prefix and a different prefix is calling you back, call for the first prefix again.
Right.
Don't let them push, because if they push, they'll know that they can push. And if other hunters hear that, they'll push you too. Do your best to try to control your pile up. You can also turn down your power. It sounds counterintuitive, but the more power you use, the weaker your hunters will be, because you reach further, and
That's right.
those people will be weaker coming back to you, so it'll be harder to copy. Also, if a hunter can't hear you very well, they usually will go slower. Experienced hunters know that slower code goes through low signals a little bit better,
That's
so
right.
they'll go a little bit slower for you. Also, activate at your comfortable speed. Don't try to activate super fast. If you can't copy super fast, try to
Mm.
go a little bit slower. Another thing, specifically for pileups, is listen for outliers. The first letter you hear, the last letter you hear. Try to be consistent with your CQs and the end of your QSO. So if your CQ is consistent, hunters will know when to jump in. Same
That's right.
thing with the end of your QSO. This also sounds counterintuitive, but don't be consistent with the people that you choose from your pileup. And I know that sounds
Oh,
weird,
interesting.
but if you always choose the first person you hear, that is where every hunter will try to start. So it
Hmm.
makes it so there are no outliers. If you always get the last person, you're always going to get people that tail off on you and try to be the last person that you hear, and then your piles last forever.
Yeah. Oh,
But yeah, as you get more experience, you you start to change up who you grab from your pile up. You run more power, you have more people in your pile up.
right. Right.
You have to be able to differentiate it somehow. And if every pile is just one big blob of noise, then there's not really a good way to spread that out other than taking some from the beginning and then some from the end, maybe some in the middle. Again, for those more experienced people, um, you want to learn your hunters, learn who
Hmm.
uses power, who has bad antenna. Those people unintentionally sometimes will walk over lower stations if they can't hear you very well. So you might want to get them first. If you know that like K3 ABC is always loud and he gives you low reports, it might be someone that you pick first so they're not walking over the rest of the pile up.
Right. So that
Uh,
you can get their call sign, hear the other lying ones under there. Very cool.
exactly. Yep.
Very cool. And then the cool thing about the pileups too is you start to get to know your hunters, right? You get your
Oh yeah.
regulars that are typically coming at you, and you know just by their fist that they're coming at you, and that's Thomas or that's Jack.
Oh yeah. I know with Forest and K7MOA, they almost sound like music in the underlying underneath your pile up. You can hear the music even though you can't make out any letters. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's Forest, because I can hear him on a bug, and I've heard his call sign so many times that you know it immediately, even if it's under stacks of noise.
Right. Very
And
cool.
also speed and tone. If you change up
Right.
your tone, if you have a very consistent tone and a very consistent speed that you always get me at, if I hear something at that tone and speed, and even if I get one letter, I know it's probably going to be you.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. All right. So we're gonna keep going. One question I had for you. You never said when you changed your call sign to your vanity call sign, Whiskey One, Whiskey Charlie. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, so I decided to do a vanity call sign after I moved to Alabama. After I got my extra, and I I really liked KDPZT because it was sequential with Ken's, but
Mhm.
I decided to eventually pick one up because I was getting more and more into CW, and I know that I wanted a shorter one.
Right.
And I was scrolling there's a prediction page that you can find online that predicts all the upcoming call signs. And I wanted 1x2 or 2x1, and I wanted one that was easy in CW, easy to hear for hunting, and easier to send. And also, because I was originally when I was just starting out, I wanted something that was relatively easy to send, and it usually
Right.
is. And then also, I wanted one that I could also not trip me up tongue tying when I actually sang it out loud.
Right.
And this one fit the bill, and I had joked about it, and then I said, I think we were at Gigaparts with Anna and her dad, and I was like, "Hey, John, what do you think about Whiskey One Whiskey Charlie?" And he's like, "Oh, it sounds good." I was like, "Well, I guess I'll try it." And then I think there were 17 applications for this one, and I was just lucky enough to get it. It was my first one that I applied for, and I applied at like midnight, and then also a second applied again at like 7 a.m. So I really, really wanted it, and I was just lucky enough to get it.
Well, very cool indeed, and definitely, you have a great cool call sign. What do they call it? Lower weight call sign, isn't that what it's called for CW?
Yeah, I do have a lot of DAWs in it, so it's not quite as low, but it I will say that I find it really easy to hear. um, if you for example, I have a hunter in Soda that hunts me Whiskey 2 Whiskey Charlie.
Mhm. Oh,
And I always hear him because I hear the DAWs, and it seems easier to hear at lower signals as well.
hmm,
And the only thing that trips people up is the Charlie at the end. If it's low signals, they'll sometimes say Y or yeah.
right.
That's the only thing that kind of trips everyone up.
Very cool. So you talked about operating as a family. You mentioned your wife and your father-in-law. Let's talk about operating as a family and POTAing together. And I've said it on the podcast before. The family that POTAs together sticks together. So you want to talk about operating as a family?
Yeah, absolutely. So before POTA, like I said, Anna and I would check into the sideband nets at night, OMIS and 3905 Century Club. I think Hank's Helping Hands net and some other Worked All States nets. And we loved being the couple that everyone wanted to work, and we'd love getting those QSL cards.
Hmm.
After I started activating POTA, I had so much fun that I wanted Anna to do it as well.
Hmm.
We started doing sidebands. We had a script. I said, "Here, this is really easy. Here's your script, and this is all you have to say. And if someone comes back and has a question, I can grab it for you," because she was a bit nervous starting out. So we started doing sideband and really really enjoyed it. And we also have Ken here as well. Ken moved to Alabama with me when I moved as well, so we activate quite often as a trio on the weekends.
Very cool.
After that, she would dabble in hunting CW from the park,
Mhm.
and Anna is a very avid hunter. She hunts in the mornings before work. She started on stray key, and now she does bug and paddles. But she wouldn't activate, and she was very nervous to activate with me for CW. And I
Mhm.
told her, we can, I convinced her to activate with me. I told her she didn't have to worry about copying the call. She could just follow a script, the same script, and convinced her to try it with me. And we got out the truck bug. I keep one in the truck, and
Mhm. Nice.
we activated, and it's definitely My favorite activations now are the CW ones that I get to do with her. It trips up some people where they don't realize that there's a second person there, so I always try to put in a comment, "Hey, listen for the second op," and we always do their call sign DE and then our call sign just to make sure that they know that there's multiple people coming back to them. And it's been super super fun. We really enjoy it.
Yeah, you do it so super, super smooth. I think you're the only couple that I have worked together at the same time. Typically one person will operate than the other. But when your call saying came, I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, talk to Brian, great. And then I heard Cam, I'm like, wait a minute. So I worked in, and so that was a very cool activation. So definitely one. Make sure everyone on the podcast gets you all in the log.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there's one other group that does it semi regularly. It's oh, I'm definitely gonna get his call sign wrong. WC1D maybe or W1CN. Uh, one of those guys. I forget. Oh, man. it kills me that I don't remember his call sign, but he
Mhm.
does it with someone else as well, and they do it the same style,
Right.
but it's very irregular that they do it. We've been doing uh, maybe once or twice a week now for a little bit, and yeah, those other ones are pretty rare. So it's always fun to get those as well. I know Robbie, Whiskey One Radio Charlie Papa. He
Mhm.
also does dual op activations very occasionally as well. So it's very cool to get those guys on the air, and I'm glad to be, uh, an activator that can do that with Anna.
Absolutely. It sounds like a lot of fun. And again, family that pulls together sticks together. So we'll keep on doing it.
Exactly. Yep.
So you turned on your camera, you started recording, and you posted them on YouTube. Can you talk about the start of your YouTube channel and why you started your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have well, it's a very small channel, so but
Mhm.
I originally started because I wanted to share the hobby. I started with watching YouTubers and seeing their equipment and getting hyper focused on, seeing everyone's setups and seeing what works for them. So I wanted to share that. I wanted to show the cool antennas that I was playing around with,
Right.
the new radios that I was having fun using. And I wanted people to copy code along with me because that's what I did a lot early on
Hmm.
was I would copy call signs along with the activator.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to inspire people to get out and activate and play with different setups and antennas. And um, I love I love going to a park and thinking about what people want to see, if they want to see the background or the radio, if they want to see me set up stuff, or I have tons of ideas that I want to do and a lot of activations that I've recorded. I wish I had more time to edit. I probably have 20 videos that I have
Oh wow.
footage for. I just can't find time to edit. So I need to. I know those bad weather days or the days where it's way too warm are coming. So I know that I'm gonna have a
Right.
lot more time where I want to be inside and not quite sweltering out in the sun.
Right. Right. Yep. We have the opposite problem here in New York. It was way too cold to POTA, and now we're getting into the season. We can actually be outside and actually do a POTA. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, and because I'm a transplant originally from Michigan,
That's all right.
our winters here are pretty mild. I mean,
Right.
we get very minimal snow. We do get some really cold days, but I'm perfectly okay with that. And I, like I said, I've done it every day of the year, and I enjoy every
That's
minute of it, even
amazing.
if it's bitter cold. I hate being too warm, but I love the cold. So here is a really good middle ground, especially during the winter where it's not too cold to still activate.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. We'll keep going and we'll definitely keep hunting you. All right, so let's talk about what's on your workbench right now. You mentioned you like homebrewing, you mentioned you like building antennas and playing with things. So, what are you currently working on?
Yeah, so I think I have a steady stream of antenna projects, whether it be trying to build the best version of an antenna, like playing around with the next hot new balun and
Hmm.
getting the best efficiency for things. I also love testing new designs that are kind of off the wall, like I have a video on a terminated dipole that I did, which is a dipole fed with um, a 9-to-1 balun at the top, or it's supposed to be 12-to-1, and then going down to 600 ohm resistors that are grounded.
Wow.
And those are like really strange. And I love playing around with new antennas. So
Yeah,
constant
that's
stream of those. I also love building radios, the True SCX, the CFT1. Always interested in building and testing new radios. I also really enjoy designing and printing cases for radios and keys and bugs and antenna parts. So I'm really into 3D printing. And probably the last thing is I've recently gotten a lot more into summits on the air.
oh,
So I've been on a QRP kick and downsizing antennas and battery
nice.
packs and um, backup equipment that I carry along with me and kind of optimizing my gear for hike-ins and summits. So um, that's definitely what's on the workbench, just constantly evolving antennas and what I can use next portable. I don't have a big shack setup at home, so most of my stuff is just focused on building and testing equipment to go out to a park.
Very cool. Very cool and very fun. All right, Brian. Well, it is that time of the podcast where we go into the rapid fire questions. Now, with each of these questions, you get 1 to 2 words to answer, and just answer with whatever comes up quickest and fastest for you. And we will start with the first question: your current sending speed, words per minute.
Ooh. Down to 2 words? Ooh, if I'm
Typical.
activating, 26.
Okay,
If,
26.
I'm part of QRQ crew, so if I Ragchew, it's usually maybe a little bit quicker than that, but yeah, 26.
26. All right, sounds good. All right, what's your favorite paddle, straight key or bug?
You mean which model or which version of those?
Which one of the which key type?
A bug for sure.
Bug's your favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
QRQ or QRS?
Uh, QRQ for sure.
QRQ, you like to go fast.
Yep.
All right, another good one. QRP or QRO?
QRP.
Okay, so you like going QRP. Very cool.
Yep.
All right, what is your favorite POTA logging? Is it paper, pen, or is it a computer logging, or phone logging, or tablet logging? What's your favorite?
Uh, Ham 2K Polo, only because I can use it on my phone and my laptop.
Okay, Polo it is. What is your favorite contest to operate in?
Ooh, POTA's not a contest. I can't say POTA.
Can't say POTA. Field day is, though.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, probably field day. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll go field day. All right, your favorite POTA activation spot? You can give a couple words on that one.
Ooh, anywhere near water. Gunnersville
Water.
Dam's great. Yeah, probably Gunnersville Dam.
Field Dam. Okay. What is your favorite QRP rig?
KX2. No
Okay.
contest.
No contest. You have to think about it. All right, and you got to think about this one. What's your favorite antenna?
Oh, that is tough. Uh, Probably the Chell MC750.
Against MC750. All right. And I think I think I know the answer to this one because I typically know when I've seen you operate. Well, what is your favorite operating time? Is it the morning gray line or is it late night?
I activated for months and months and months, and just a couple months ago, I got my first 100 contacts morning shift. So,
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
definitely around UTC, right before and right after UTC. That's
So
my favorite time.
you're definitely that late nighter then.
Oh yeah.
All right, and the last question, and you're not supposed to have favorite kids, but what is your favorite key?
Oh man, that is a tough one. It used to be the Bengali Traveler for so long, but the RLP V2 from N0SA is
Oh
probably my
yeah.
new favorite.
Okay. Is that unobtainium? Is he still making those?
Oh yeah, he's still making them. Yeah,
Oh,
send him an
great.
email.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay,
and
great.
very, very reasonably priced for how good it is. It's really, really good.
All right. Very cool. All right. Well, you heard it here first. Send him an N0SA email, see if you can get one. All right, Brian, it is that time that we do have to close out the podcast. But before we do, can you give some final advice for new operators?
Um, let's see. It not the one that everyone's going to tell you is get on the air early and often before you think you're ready. Everyone's going to tell you that.
Right.
I would say when you're if you are new to CW and you're CW activating, try to say the hunter's name. Try to
Ooh,
repeat back something that's different every time. Try to give
okay.
real signal reports. It'll give you more practice sending your letters and numbers, and also record your practices and record your activations. Review them in a couple months. It's so hard to see your progress day to day. Look at the big steps and not the small stumbles.
Wow. Very sage advice. Very sage advice. Well, Brian, thank you for. Oh, one more question. You are close to Huntsville. Will you be at Huntsville Hamfest this year?
I will. Yep. I
All right,
will be there.
so look for Bryan W1WC at the Huntsville Hamfest this year. Bryan, it has been a pleasure to have you in the shack on the 599 Signal Report. Thank you again for coming in, and best 73s to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. 7-3. Dit dit.
Dit.